Okay, this lesson for the Koine Project Class responds to some feedback, unexpected. So it wasn't expected. Ephesians 1:4 and the eschatological implications of the downcast of a kind of order, which had to do with destructive implications, specifically of the 70 AD, the temple downcast, that order that had commandeered the temple, had turned the Father's house. As Jesus said, you turned my Father's house into a den of thieves. So the churches now that were under the care of the Apostle Paul, he said he had the care of all the churches now. So he was speaking of as a temple builder, he described himself, and yet the temple's no longer brick and mortar, but lively, living stones, people who have heard the gospel, trusted Jesus for everlasting life, made their exit out through baptism, severing their ties, dissociating with the Judaism, the works, the self-righteousness, those who rejected Jesus. Even we thinking back to the day of Pentecost, where those whose hearts were pierced were the ones who had went along with the crowd crying out, crucify, crucify. And they want to know what must they do. And that was to completely dissociate from the culpability involved in that most heinous crime. Saul of Tarsus knew what it was in the book of Acts to wash himself away from his sins, speaking primarily of his personal, direct, unique offenses against the way, the truth, and the life as he persecuted those people, and Jesus stopped him. Now, when we learn the severity of disassociation through what baptism did and why they came out, we'll look back and notice why it was so disturbing when John the Baptist came on the scene, because he was baptizing Jewish people, and it was for Jewish people to take those who wanted to come into the Old Covenant to through baptism. Baptism's taught in the Old Testament quite self-evidently. So let's look at this text now that we're asking, what do we do when we have people who have built so much? For example, let's say you use Ephesians 1:4 instead of eschatologically, and then without ecclesiological or ecclesiastic implications, but you use it for soteriology, for eternal selection. Well, it's nothing in the mind of the writer, and it's nothing in the mind of those who were receiving it. And we can look at this text and see if it can help us. So let's just walk through it. Kai, it's emphatic, so we'll just say indeed, indeed. And then this is the you yourself, when the personal pronoun is used independent, you yourself. And then we have cot, as in kata, but the letter A, alpha, is omitted because of the next word, archos, archos. Notice that, archos, beginning. So this according to beginning, according to beginning. And then we have the vocative, which more than one of you let me know I'd said optative in relationship to declension of nouns, and actually optative is a mood, and vocative goes with the noun here. So this is, indeed you yourself, Lord. So here, according to beginning, and then we have tain. I'll just go ahead and write it in there. Gain, that's the earth. And then here's our primary, this major verb here. That's an augment. Melio. And then here's the ending sas. And you remember your sa, se, samen sete sa. And then you have the augment. So this is laid a foundation, and it's aorist indicative, active. So we'll just say established for the moment. And then we'll remember this is the word themelion, the noun foundation. So indeed, you yourself, according to beginning, Lord, the earth, you established it. You yourself established it. This is second person singular. Kai, and and erga, works. And then this is tone, kairon, the hands, and then su, of you, genitive, second person, of you. And then asine, just like we know Amy, form of aiming. They are. And then we have the last part, the heavens, hoi, u, ranoi. There we go, the heavens. So this is a brief, quick lesson, but if you remember, sometimes people have built so much, as we all do. We have biases and we import into a text eisegetically. And now this has gone on for centuries. People just hand it off to someone else. We then read the pre-understanding, and we don't go back and notice the distress of the Apostle Paul, for example, and his work to go out, and he feared he had labored in vain in the churches of Galatia, and perhaps labored in vain at the church in Corinth. And here he was writing to a church in Rome, explaining how the Gentiles now can call upon the name of the Lord for their deliverance, just like Jews did. So Gentiles, knowing the covenant privileges and benefits, now in light of the new covenant, then they were being reminded in that letter, Romans 10, for example, as Paul said, how can one call upon the name of the Lord in whom they haven't first believed? So they had already believed. These were people here covenant together in this assembly. But he was telling them that now there's no difference, Jew and Gentile. So for a Gentile, let's say I'm a Gentile, I would now know from the Bible that I have the same privilege to call upon the Lord for my deliverance, just as I would know how faithful God has been with his people throughout the old covenant. So when we come to this and we see a controversy, let's say in Ephesians 1:4, where let's say someone has overworked a text, it's called letterism, and biases are the root of the fruit being the fallible features that we may have used and imported into our construct by an alien alliance with a context, and they're not compatible. It's like oil and water. So the kataboles kosmu, we noticed that was Ephesians 1:4, and I remind you of Romans 1:20, where he spoke of the genitive case, katiseos kosmu. So for a language, it's so specific, and then for a noun, for example, themelion, that's a foundation. So it's not that we have a good case. We actually want not only the good case for what we're studying, but we want to understand. That's why I say those who are just simply anti-Pelagian, anti-Molina or Molinist, whatever that is, or anti-Arminian or anti-Lutheran or anti-Calvin, doesn't mean they're actually studying the text. So for us in this class, using the languages, we also will go to our text, we'll use our words, we'll see what we can learn. We compare phrases now. We look at phrases just like words, and we can notice this. And it's very good. It's very encouraging to see how easy it is to study this out. And to notice if Paul authored Hebrews, and he's the most likely candidate for those who intend to dispute it, but I would not find a problem if someone discovered someone else with his skill. Then it would also help encourage us to see that if God, through intelligent inspiration and superintendence of the production of his scriptures, were no more, it shows that the consistency, if when God wants to say something, he knows how to say it. So enjoy this lesson, and may it help you with some of the distress unnecessarily induced by those who have continued. It's called accretion. We just keep layering and moving one step further from what the text says. So enjoy this lesson. Have a blessed day.